Call the meeting to order. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. Superintendent Daly, agenda changes?
We have changes in personnel, and we did not have an executive session to start.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to board president comments. I attended staff opening day with Ms. Unson. It was a beautiful sunny morning. There was lots of excitement in the stands and lots of new faces. It was great to see everybody excited, ready for the new school year. We also had the opportunity to attend the capital project meeting last night. It was great to hear the public feedback and comments about our new capital project activities. End of board president comments. Moving on to points of interest. Points of interest? Yes, Ms. Coffey.
I had the chance to watch one of the girls' field hockey games, which was exciting because it's not a sport that I have a whole lot of background and experience in. So I don't know everything about it, but it was really cool to see and learn a little bit more about another sport. Also, both the middle school and Brasser had really great setups to welcome students in, to see their teachers, to see their classrooms, to try out lockers. So both of those were great ways to start off the year.
Thank you very much. Any other points of interest? Okay, thank you. Well, moving on. Reports of meetings. Mr. Moscato.
Thank you. We had our first Monroe County School Board Association Legislative Committee meeting, and we set up some priorities tentatively for the year. Our schedule normally is to go to Albany in December, but they're not coming back until January. I mean, everybody, staff, legislators, they decided to wait until January to come back. The session starts sometime in mid-January, so we may go in March again, once we know things. But I sent out a list of the tentative priorities, and most of them, obviously, funding is still there. But the point about funding is that the legislature promised they would move towards fully funding foundation aid. And so we need to keep on reminding them of that they made a promise and a commitment to it. We haven't really heard too much from Governor Hochul about what her priorities are, but we know in the past she's been much more supportive of education. One of the issues that happens with us is that we advocate with our state and federal reps, and sometimes we never know if it has any effect. So we've been talking to our state reps and federal reps about the CDL requirements for bus drivers. And we asked Congressman Morelli specifically if he could look into some of that, because we know that the states just look at the federal CDL requirements and just tack them on to theirs. So he has. He sent a letter to the Secretary of the Treasury Department asking him to look at ways to change this so it's not as difficult for people to become bus drivers. So we'll see. We're supposed to meet with Senator Schumer in a day or so on Zoom, and we may bring it up again with him. So we'll go from there. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We have information exchange committee meeting starts tomorrow as our first one.
Any other reports of meetings? Hearing none, moving on. Visitor comments.
We had people that arrived just at, did anyone have a form? Okay, they came right in as we were starting.
Okay.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yep. That's okay. 3 minutes.
Thank you. We're going to talk about my shirt. Thank you.
So.
Thank you.
Tina Carney.
Hold on, he needs to say his thing.
Hold on a second before we start. I have my preamble. The Gates Child School District Board of Education invites public comment at this time. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. We ask that individuals state their name and address prior to comments and utilize the podium microphone to address the board. Although the board will not respond directly to individual comments at this time, items brought to the attention of the board may be taken under consideration for future response or action. In order to comply with laws related to confidentiality, we ask that the issues related to a specific school district personnel or students be brought to the attention of the superintendent of schools privately. The board reserves the right to terminate a speaker's comments if his or her comments are in excess of 3 minutes, repetitive, or are not appropriate for discussion in open public forum. Ms. Carney?
Thank you. My name is Tina Carney, 30 Everett Drive. I'm a Gates Child Parent Leader and advocate for meaningful family engagement, struggling learners, including those who are dyslexic, and tonight, early intervention. Tonight I'm going to talk about Early Intervention Awareness Month, which is presented by the Monroe County Local Early Intervention Coordinating Council, or LEICC for short. I'm a parent member of the council, co-secretary, and I'm coordinator of the Early Intervention Awareness Month that's happening now, September. Early intervention is a voluntary developmental evaluation and services program offered by New York State and administered by the local Monroe County Department of Public Health. Early intervention serves children from birth through 2 years of age, right before their 3rd birthday, and their families where there's a high risk of delay, a suspected delay in development, or a confirmed diagnosis of a developmental disability. Evaluations are conducted to determine eligibility. A variety of therapeutic and support services are offered to eligible infants and toddlers with disabilities and their families. Why is early intervention important? Early intervention is likely to be more effective when it's provided earlier than later. Early intervention services can change a child's developmental path and improve outcomes for children, families, and our communities. Simply put, early intervention helps our youngest children during the time of life when their brains are most malleable and they're developing incredibly rapidly. My youngest benefited from the program once we finally got into it. There are definitely some issues, a lack of providers in Monroe County. So it's not perfect, but it's a wonderful thing for our community. And I invite you to please help by learning about early intervention and sharing information. I have a small flyer with some QR codes with information about events and more information there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on. Motion to exit the public session. Motion, please. Ms. Richards, Ms. Unson. Questions, comments? All in favor? The vote is unanimous. We are out of public session.
Now you have to open the hearing.
Okay. Motion or just open?
Yes, yeah, motion to open the hearing.
Motion to open the public hearing. Motion, please. Ms. Unson and Ms. Coffey. All in favor? Vote is unanimous. We are now open the hearing.
Okay, as required by New York State education law, we have received a notification of a new charter school application, the Rochester Sports Academy Charter School. We are required to have a public comment period where people can discuss this. And then we are required by New York State law to reply back to the state with any comments received. Is there any public comment on the Rochester Sports Academy Charter School? There is no public comment, sir.
Thank you very much. Motion to close the hearing. Mr. Bailey and Mr. Long, all in favor? The vote is unanimous. We have closed the public hearing. Motion to resume the public session. Motion, please. Ms. Coffey and Ms. Richards, all in favor? The vote is unanimous. We have resumed the public session. Moving on to capital improvement report.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hi. Phase 1.5. Auditorium. Bus loop in the front is complete. That's pretty much all the blacktopping we got done. We got the base done in that big parking lot right outside my office. Concrete sidewalks are all complete around the building. The scaffolding was removed. If you go to the next slide, you can see pictures of the scaffolding, how it looks from stage looking out now with no scaffolding in there, which is, it got big all of a sudden again. It was small and now it's big. Ductwork is ongoing. Roofers are working on edge metal. They should be done in about a week and a half if the weather cooperates, and then the roofers are completely done. Metal stud framing and drywalling, that's gonna be kind of like the theme we had with the masons. That's gonna be ongoing for the next couple of reports. Painting is underway. They're probably about 30% painted out. By the end of this, by the time of our next board meeting, all the blacktop should be complete around the facility and the striping. The chiller will be started up and running. We're gonna test that chiller while we still got some good weather here in the month of September, so that'll be ready to go come spring. That'll all be fired up. What didn't make this projected for September was a nice surprise that E.G. Sackett showed up. That means there will be a couple months of wall tile, terrazzo flooring. Once they get here, they stay, which is nice to see them land and unload 2 truckloads of supplies out there. Still on schedule. We have there is a couple long lead items that have been ordered for a very long time, but they're just back ordered. Laminate right now is hard to get, casework and millwork, stuff like that. But we're still on schedule to turn that over in January to you guys, so right where we should be. Any questions on 1.5?
I do.
Yes.
Whatever happened with that beam that was in the old auditorium? Is that
We
workaround was fixed?
put a new one. If you go to the vocal music room picture, the bottom one, that right about where that blue strip is, that is a 3-foot deep beam now carrying all the way across that. We put a 3-foot 2-piece beam in there deep. Carry that. I think that was asked last time, didn't you, Jeff, mention that last time or something? Yeah. Yep, that's been taken care of.
Kind of remembered it, but it wasn't positive.
That's fine. What was that, Jeff?
It's much bigger than the last one.
Yes. For some reason, the last one worked. 1.6, the 2 elementary schools. This is winding down. This will be the last time we have a report on this. All their spaces have been turned over. Actually, we had a late request for a kiln. That's actually getting installed tonight because Walt Disney was your only school that did not have a kiln in it, period. So now they can actually fire clay. They use some sort of different clay that wouldn't fire something before, I don't know. But blacktop was complete. Plantings are all done. Interior renovations, that's all complete. They're on the punch list items. And the only really remaining item they got is they'll get the boilers going for both the snow melt systems in the next couple of weeks. But we should be out of there 3-4 weeks tops with punch list items and everything else. And that one will be closed out and done. We'll be down to just 1.5. So the pictures you have for them 2 schools would be basically the entrances is the only pictures. It's the only thing that's really changed. We took some nice pictures, got them on the server for the entrances. Any questions on the 2 elementary schools?
I do. At Walt Disney, it's 2 different colors. Is it gonna change to the dark blue?
I believe that's something the design team's working on for your next capital project is to continue that around.
Well, so we're looking at options, although those panels, I'm sure Lester can speak to that, are extremely costly. And so we're looking at options for what we can do with those panels. So no guarantees except to say it's something that we're exploring. Another option would be to repaint them, but again, those surfaces apparently when you repaint them, it doesn't last nearly as long as the panels that are actually manufactured that way. So looking at options, but it is very costly to purchase panels.
To follow up on what Mitch was saying, so the facade, or whatever you want to call that teal color around there, that's an aluminum product. Kind of like, does anybody remember when we painted the red at Florence Brasser on the roadside, them window panels at the last project? And we figured there was only 5-6 years worth of life, just the way it won't adhere that well. That's just a Band-Aid. And also, as Mitch was saying, the blue you see right there, that much blue panel probably has a value of about $70,000. Because I know what the whole thing was, and that's about half.
And so what are those powder coated? What is the process there?
That is a powder coated in the factory, yeah. And so them panels, it's like when we did Paul Road, remember all the angles them metal panels had? It's the same system. They actually measure 4 or 5 panels every night or every day, go to their shop, bend them so they're all the angles are right, just like these, and then bring 4 or 5 panels. Every night there's a group made for the next day's worth of work. It's not something you order off the shelf. Anything else?
Other questions? Thank you very much, sir.
Perfect. Have a good night.
Moving on to Human Resources Report.
Good evening, President Potensky, Superintendent Daly, and members of the Board of Education. My name is Michaela Pareto. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources and Labor Relations. Thank you for inviting us this evening to give you an update on the exciting things going on in the world of human resources for Gates Chili. With me tonight, I have Dr. Sandra Vasquez, who is our Director of Recruitment, Hiring, and Diversity Practices. She will be updating you as well this evening on some of the more lighthearted things happening in human resources. So, to start, just to give a brief overview of the structure of the HR team here at Gates Chili. Myself and Dr. Vasquez are joined by Patty Palmer, who's been with the district for more than 20 years, and Glenda Gonzalez, who started with us about a year ago in this coming October, and replaced our 36-year veteran, Barb Meisner, who retired last year. So, what we thought we'd do for you this evening is just briefly overview some of the different areas that are handled by the Human Resources Department and what falls under those different areas, and then highlight some specific things going on with recruitment, hiring, and onboarding. So contract management. In the Human Resources Department, we work with the leadership of the district's 7 unions. We process all of our arbitrations and grievances. We resolve labor disputes, draft MOAs, which you're familiar with seeing on a regular basis, negotiate all contracts, and write proposals and actually put the final contracts together and handle the language in the contracts. In addition to meeting regularly with all of the union leadership in the district, just a bright spot is we are currently at labor peace with all of our units in the district. We have current active contracts. We are not out in any bargaining unit beyond their contractual term at this point. And with the recent settlement of the school-related professionals contract, we have now added the high deductible option into every single bargaining unit in the district, which was a long-term goal. Dr. Vasquez will be speaking in a minute in a little more depth about recruitment, hiring, and onboarding, but within that aspect of what Human Resources handles, we handle advertising and attending job fairs, managing the interview process, including the screening and selection of candidates for interviews, as well as the actual interviewing that goes on. We make offers to candidates, process all the fingerprints and make sure they're cleared through the appropriate departments, review all board policies and systems with new employees, get them onboarded in terms of providing badges and training and connecting them with different departments and other leaders in the district to make sure that they have the access to everything that they need. And beyond that, the addition of Dr. Vasquez has allowed us to be more hands-on in the actual interview process, which has allowed us to make sure that we are consistent and equitable in the way in which we are interviewing candidates, which is a great thing. She is a consistent force in almost every single interview that happens in the district at this point. In the staffing and attendance realm, we determine vacancies, needs, and placements based on resignations, retirements, or change in student needs. Just a point on that is that in my time here, which I've now been with the district for 5 years. We average a turnover of about 100 employees per year. So currently we have just over 800 employees in the district. We usually are around 815 employees in the district. And we turn over about 100 employees per year, so which means we're hiring about 100 employees per year as well. So we also handle the managing and hiring of all per diem and long-term subs, all employee discipline and or terminations, all attendance, long and short-term FMLA requirements, 913 under the education law, and yearly rollovers of all attendance, making sure that they comply with all the contractual requirements. On the unemployment front, HR processes unemployment claims and we make sure we are providing reasonable assurance letters to all staff, and we respond and represent the district at unemployment hearings, which has been a larger part than I would like of my job over the last year and a half, given all of the fraudulent claims that we received through unemployment. And Patty Palmer, gotta give props where props are due, is the guiding force in the management of all of our unemployment claims in the district. In the last year and a half, she has responded to about 200 separate claims for unemployment. Some legitimate and the majority fraudulent.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, of course.
Fraudulent as in stolen identity type fraudulent?
Stolen
Not-
identity,
not our
or
employees.
something was filed and the actual employee didn't file it, him or herself, so attempting to steal an identity, a lot of those. The vast majority is that case, yes. Management of employee data. So in the Human Resources Office, we process all of the salary increases, tenure, seniority, all certification or civil service title needs. We process graduate and in-service credits, extracurricular coaching and leadership contracts. We manage all of the official district records for staff and for recognition purposes as well. Longevity, loan forgiveness, equal employment opportunity responses, and all mandated trainings for all staff. Dr. Vasquez and I together serve as the district's Title IX coordinator, which means we handle the investigation of any claims of discrimination and harassment in the district. We meet with the claimant, witnesses, and the subject of the complaint. We manage all of our legal and policy obligations related to those investigations, issuing reports, and where appropriate, we get involved in conflict resolution and or mediation, which Dr. Vasquez's background lends itself to nicely. Okay, so as I mentioned when we started, at this point I'm going to hand the clicker over to Dr. Vasquez so that she can talk to you about some interesting things going on in the area of recruitment, hiring, and onboarding.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. So I'll talk to you a little bit about recruitment and hiring as we know it to be this past year and a half. So with the recruitment and hiring, when we looked at our practices and what can we do to kind of enhance our processes and procedures, we really looked at obviously what our strategic goal was for the district to make sure that we align what we're doing with those goals. And a lot of most of our goal this year was really to increase our staff diversity. As we know, we have a great population of student diversity, and really just trying to see, can we hire staff to really match our student population? So through this year and a half, some of the things that we looked at is really rewriting job descriptions to use more inclusive language. It's important that our candidates see themselves in the postings that we put out. Diversifying our platforms, just really looking at, so if we're looking at the district and seeing that we have candidates that are looking at our website for vacancies, what else are we missing? Especially if we're looking at diversity. So we looked at our posting platforms and diversified those as well. Looking at the Rochester City and seeing kind of what they have. Looked at ShiftDiff, which is a new platform that we're using, and it scrapes WDKX, which is an urban radio station in the city. So we've had some luck with diversifying that way, along with boots on the ground, going to libraries, parent talk, those type of things. Diversifying interview committees. It's hard to diversify a committee within our district at this point. So we really try not to tap a lot of people in terms of race and ethnicity to have around the table. So we really do look at the diversity of our titles that we have, just to make sure that we try to have an equal voice around the table when we sit down to interview our candidates. We looked at the questions that we had, and we started to really revamp all of our questions as we continue to hire. And one of the things we tried to do is really look at our questions and making sure that they're culturally responsive. So we made sure and added a couple questions to each interview set of questions, making sure that there was a culturally responsive question to ask our candidates. Part of it is for us to kind of gauge where our candidates stand with diversity, but it's also to let them know what we're doing with the district and that we are invested in diversity. As you all know, retention starts with recruitment, so it's really important that these steps, that we were meticulous in doing these things and how we really engage our community. Decreasing bias in our hiring process. Michaela spoke a little bit earlier about me attending each interview as much as I think at this point, maybe it's been 98% of our interviews that I've sat in on, which has proven to be great. First few months I was home because we were all remote. So there was a lot of hiring on Zoom, which was interesting. But it allowed me to really get to know the people that I'm going to be working with. It also allowed me to see what our process was as it stood before. I'm a big believer of just sitting back and seeing how things are before I go and implement any changes. Or suggest any changes, I should say. So in being able to attend all the interviews, I was able to speak to some of the work we needed to do with our committee members as we sat there, as we're interviewing people to decrease our bias. And then the introduction of our diversity statement. This was actually one of the first things, along with rewriting job descriptions, that we did. Our diversity statement is as it says on the screen here. The Gage-Chili Central School District is dedicated to fostering curiosity, growth, and diversity within its school community. The district celebrates and embraces differences and strives to dismantle exclusion, bias, racism, and prejudice of all forms. It was extremely important for us to have a statement on our job postings so that, again, it speaks to the what our goal is for the district, but it also speaks to inclusivity. And it's not just in our job posting, it's also in all of my recruitment material. So when I'm out recruiting, the diversity statement for Gage-Chili follows as well. So as we're looking at applicant demographics in regards to hiring, in 1920, we had about 502 total applicants, 10.6 were underrepresented candidates. In the year 2021, we had about 745 total candidates with 11.8 underrepresented candidates. And then so far this year, for the 21-22, we have about 245 total new applicants in frontline, with 18.9 underrepresented candidates that we've been able to hire. And we're still in the midst of hiring and recruiting as it stands. So we had a job fair. And as we looked at our openings and vacancies this past summer, or projecting, I should say, from the spring of last year to what we were going to need this coming school year, we had about 40 to 65 estimated staff vacancies, which, as you all know, most every district was in that boat. So trying to figure out what are we going to do to really entice people to our district. So along with all the other things that we had done prior to pre-COVID, we figured that a job fair would probably be the best thing. It had been something that I know Michaela had been working on prior to me coming to the district, and we felt like it was an aggressive timeline, but we felt like it was the right time to do so. So we did go forward with it, and actually I believe we're really successful. When we thought about the job fair, we really looked at the district as a whole and really tried to see where were our vacancies, where are the things that we really need to focus on. And obviously transportation was a huge one for us, our school nutrition, our school-related professionals, as well as facilities. We can't run a school without them, so we needed to do something to focus. So a lot of the job fair was focusing on these 4 offices from our district. I'm going to have Michaela jump back in, so she'll talk about kind of our further goals for that. Sorry.
So the goal of the job fair was obviously to recruit new employees to the district, but we really wanted to showcase what Gates Chili has to offer to a wide audience and cast a wide net. So we did that through a bunch of different ways. We did it through advertising, and again, give credit where credit is due. I'm going to talk about some of the advertising techniques that we used to advertise the job fair very successfully. And all of that was Eva Petrosino. So thank you to Mrs. Petrosino for all of her help with our advertising. Eva also served as a co-facilitator and organizer of the job fair, along with myself and Dr. Vasquez. So again, thank you to her for all of her hard work. We also really wanted to focus on being inviting, casual, and friendly. Oftentimes when you walk into a job fair, it's uncomfortable for potential hires. You don't know where to go, you don't know who to talk to, so we really focused on trying to be casual and approachable. We had coloring books and coloring stations set up if people needed to bring their children with them because they didn't have childcare, which is another way for us to show that we are inclusive and trying to be responsive to the community that we serve. We wanted it to be a one-stop shop. People don't have time to come back and meet with us 16 different times in order to get a job. So, bless you. So we set it up so that when you walked into the job fair, you had the ability to gather information about the different positions that were available. We had employees in those departments there ready to talk to people, as well as about 30 administrators, about 40 people total. Current district staff were there. You could then, if you wanted to, fill out an application, a job fair application. And then if you wanted to, you could engage in a screening interview. And our colleagues in the room and around the district on the administrative team helped to do all of those screening interviews at the job fair. And then from there, we had enough information to sort of start to sift through and see where people might potentially fit and invite them back for a more formal interview. So in order to advertise, we advertised in a myriad of different ways, and I hope that you all got to see some of the fun advertising that was done. But in terms of newspaper, print, and digital advertising, we all know we were designated as a top workplace, which is a huge accomplishment for us, which provided us with exposure through the DNC. So we did advertise with the DNC. And normal means like putting postings up on the district website and making sure that we had a banner across the website, robocalls and text messages and emails. Mrs. Petrosino created a flyer that you can see on your screen that went into the free lunches for students. Our parents are a huge resource in terms of trying to pull people into the district that are already invested in the district, just getting them invested in a different way as an employee. Signs on campus, posters around town.
I'll also add to that is that our diversity award really also spoke to what we were doing in the district, because to get an award, you got to be doing something. So we were able to speak to that and engage people in that manner as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So social media, you can see some stats on your screen about our reach in terms of advertising on social media for the job fair. There's, for Facebook and Instagram, it talks about reach, and for Twitter and LinkedIn, it talks about impressions. So this was a new thing for us to try, getting ourselves out there on social media. And the difference between impressions and reach is, so when you consider engagement, think about reach as the number of unique people who see your content. And impression means the content was delivered in someone's feed, but that viewer doesn't have to necessarily engage in the post for it to count as an impression. So that's the difference between the two. We also had radio advertising and streaming. We tried to be as targeted as we could in terms of where our radio ads were playing. So we had 44 spots on WBEE, 46 on WPXY, and 47 on WDKX, reaching nearly 200,000 listeners. And then we streamed as well. So again, thinking about trying to do something a little bit different this time. We had Pandora and Spotify we streamed on as well, and didn't just leave it to radio. We know a lot of people now get most of their content through streaming and don't listen to radio anymore. So we can see we had for Pandora and Spotify, with the radio spots included in that, we had more than 205 people reached. So it's amazing. Yeah, in a very short amount of time. And then local media outreach. You can see Dr. Vasquez up there representing Gates Chili. We had 13 WAN came out and previewed the job fair the morning of the event on August 3rd. And then returned later in the day to talk to Margot, one of our bus drivers, who did an excellent job talking about why driving a school bus for Gates Chili is such a rewarding career. And then we also had News 10 and Channel 8 do spotlights on our job fair as well. So we got a lot of attention through local media, which was a great thing.
So our job fair took place on August 3rd from 2 to 7. And like we said, we considered it a great success. As you see the opening, the bus was there for people to come in and look at the bus. We try to have as many visuals, engagement as possible. So, having a bus in front of their job fair always kind of engages people. So that was one thing that was obviously purposeful and intentional. Just a snapshot at the job fair, we had 98 total attendees. 70 either started or completed an application right on site. As Michaela said, they had the opportunity to complete their application, so they did so. And then 82% participated in screening interviews. So some of them just kind of went right to the screening interview, or some of them had some applications already processed in our system and went right to the screening interview. And we had 23 people who are interested in transportation positions, which again, because transportation is one of our extreme focus areas for obvious reasons, we were extremely happy with that interest and turnout. So we definitely considered the job fair a success. What happened? Yes.
Question.
Yes.
How many of the 98, or were you able to ask the 98 how they heard about it?
So we did get some information, and it was a little bit all over the place, to be honest with you. It was a little bit of everything that we mentioned, with the most being, I believe it was the streaming, I think, social media, all of social media. So yeah, we tried to get a snapshot, but it was really, we were hoping to have one great place. So the radio stations did pretty well too. So it's, we'll see. I'm kind of looking at this as our baseline and kind of seeing where we go from there. So,
Thank you.
yeah, no problem. So after the job fair, text messages were sent, emails were sent to all the applicants to engage them. Again, I want to reiterate that retention starts with recruitment. So if you put in an application and we say we're going to get back to you, we better do that, right? So we followed up with messages and emails. We sorted through applicant info just to determine where their best fit is within the district and our vacancies. Interviews began with transportation, school nutrition, cleaner, aid positions within a week of the job fair. So some of them were individual, some we did group interviews, group onboarding. So however we can get it done, we tried to really get it done before the school year began. So we had about 45 hires from the job fair, 75 total new hires in our district. So onboarding took place prior to orientation of August 24, and we had our new staff beginning on time. And we had our administrators being able to welcome, all of our new staff to the district. And currently we're continuing to interview as well, and welcoming our new folks as we continue to fill the rest of our vacancies.
That's all we have for you this evening. Any questions for us? Yes, Andrea.
So next year, you can say that if they attend the job fair, they had a 50% rate of hire.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at that.
No, we were honestly very lucky, but very blessed with the volume of people who turned out who were already invested in our district and really wanted a job. They wanted to work and they knew what they wanted to do too. They were very good about telling us where they thought they would be a good fit, and we, for the most part, I think were able to match that as best we possibly could. Not everybody was hired from the job fair. There were some that weren't, but by and large, we had a really great pool of people who showed up. Any other questions for us? Yes, Frank.
Where does the HR department come in for workers' compensation?
So the business office handles workers' comp for us. Yes. I often get questions regarding workers' comp, so I'll field questions, but all of that runs through the business office, and we subscribe to the BOE service for workers' comp as well.
You'll hear a little bit about that in the report on the 28th.
Any other questions for us? Okay, thank you
Thank
for
you.
your time.
Appreciate
Have a
you.
good evening.
Moving on to the athletics report.
There we go. President Potensky, whoop, it's going. Superintendent Daly, Board of Education, thank you for your time tonight. I'd like to give an update on physical education, health, and athletics. Some of the things that we're very excited about this year, some new things that we have to offer, some of the things that we anticipate that will be a struggle that are not unique to our department, but I'd just like to bring forward here tonight. So to start off in our, I'm not touching it. So the ghost of Spartacus is in the building. I'll put it right there. So, so update from our health education department. First off, I'd like to thank Superintendent Daly, Troy Olin, the Board of Education for supporting this new position. Madeline Zuloff is a school nurse teacher at Walt Disney. She has helped support some of this work in the past, but is officially now in this role. Part of her role is going to continue delivering health education content at all 4 elementary schools, which she will be doing. But it's also going to be now in this role attending teacher leader meetings, helping us vertically align our health education curriculum with our middle school and our high school content leaders. So we're really excited about bolstering what we're doing in health education, and especially at our elementary level. So Madeline's very excited. We've had a couple meetings with her, myself, and Aaron Eugene, where we've really started getting our wheels churning, and we're excited about what she'll be offering. But some of the units that she will be offering to our elementary students include, but aren't limited to, our nutrition unit, which is a big part of what we do, body systems, which is a big part, especially with our older elementary students, and then positive choice and healthy choices is another big part of our elementary health curriculum. Physical education update. Uh-oh.
It's over.
You know, they don't do this for HR. They just do it to... our physical education update, you know, I'm obviously biased in this, but all of our staff are excited to have our students back 5 days a week, but especially our physical education department. They're really excited to be back in with our students and working with them. But what I'd like to focus on today are new PE standards and the timeline we have for implementing them. There we go. So this started last year. So in 2020, New York State Ed released new PE standards, and the timeline is there in front of you. Fall 2023 is when they need to be fully implemented. So we started our conversation around raising awareness for these new PE standards last year in department meetings, and that will continue as we build our capacity this school year and into next school year, where those standards will then be built into our lesson planning and the activities that our students are engaging in. And then in 2023 and going forward, we will be using those standards in our physical education curriculum. And really, if you're not familiar with the New York State PE standards, there was 3 broad standards that really allowed for teachers to be creative in how they address those standards. That's still available. However, they've gone from 3 to 6 standards with an increased focus on respecting others, cooperative activities, overall wellness, lifetime movement activities, which is already built into our PE curriculum. even as I'm talking, I'm thinking about our elementary PE curriculum, where we are already doing snowshoeing and we're doing cooperative games. We're doing a lot that already address this. But these standards will help us when we're back as a staff during the summers and as a department really refocusing our curriculum and trying to address these standards so we're ready in 2023. Okay. Athletics update. I just figured it was going to go. Okay.
You want me to help you out moving forward? You can just look over at me.
Yeah.
Okay, where are we?
Here, we are at
There you go.
athletics update. Next slide, please. Thank you, Dr. Ball.
It's doing it to me too. Keep going.
All right, man. Spectators at games. We are very excited to have our spectators back at our competitions. We are in week 3 of JV and varsity competitions. Modified is starting their scrimmages this week, and we have some competitions later this week, and we'll really get into it next week at the modified level. But the only limitation we have at our competitions as far as numbers is our regular capacity at all of our facilities, which is rarely an issue. Homecoming, we sometimes flirt with that number a little bit. But so we're excited to have our spectators back in full. We're continuing to live stream. We have our huddle camera in the field house, so we're able to live stream any contest that happens in the field house or any event. Goes right to our Gage Tri Athletic YouTube page. And then in Spartan Stadium, we are live streaming varsity competitions that happen in Spartan Stadium. But it is important to note that a limitation we currently have aligns with exactly what we're doing during regular school hours. All spectators, coaches, and our student athletes are expected to remain masked during competitions and practices. Something I did just want to bring to the board's attention, the shortages in staff, the labor force issues that we're having, not only touch upon the school district, but also athletics specifically. Today felt like a spring athletic day where it was raining and we were moving competitions, and it wasn't because of rain or weather, it was because other districts are struggling with their bus drivers just as we are. We're actually in a much stronger place than many of our league members that we compete against, but we're pushing back some competitions so teams can get there to compete. For instance, today we had a cross-country meet at Parma Park. It was scheduled to start at 4:30. It then moved to 5:30 because 2 of the 3 districts that were coming couldn't leave their district until 5 o'clock, and that's a reality. So we moved it, and I got the text that they finished it. They've cleared the park before the sun officially went down, but that is a reality. And as the sun goes down sooner and sooner, it's going to be a challenge for districts. And you're going to see that many districts have already stated that they're not going to get modified competitions rolling until 5 p.m. So as we get into October, those modified soccer games, I think about those games when the sun's going to be going down pretty soon. It's going to be a challenge for districts that don't have lights. Luckily, with our facility, we've already moved our modified soccer competitions, our modified football competitions inside the track, so we will have the lights on, and we will be able to, even if we start late, we will be able to offer those competitions, and our kids will be able to see their opponents and teammates, which is a good thing. But there are start time changes that are happening all over the league. It's not unique to us, but that will be a daily occurrence, as the start of this fall has demonstrated. On a positive note, I did want to give a plug to the Gage Tri Booster Club. They are accepting more volunteers right now. The email there at gcsportsbc@gmail is their email if you're interested in volunteering. They do have an open position of a treasurer, but we have opened the concession stand at the stadium, but we want to offer more. We are not offering all competitions on the stadium. We would really like to offer more, and the Sports Booster program would like to offer more. They're just looking for more volunteers. A highlight for this year, we are returning back just to our 3-sport athlete t-shirts. Hopefully we don't have to, even though it was great offering 4-sport, and we had 20 students, 11 at the middle school, 9 at the high school, actually accomplished that last year under the unique circumstances of last year in our athletic calendar. We are returning to our 3-sport athletes this year, so we will be offering these shirts again. These are photos from last spring, and the one on my right there, we did a little bit of tie-dye just to make it a little interesting for those 20 students that are in that. And then here are just some resources real quickly. Our online store is open 24/7, 365. Please spend at your will and what you can. It does help support our programming. As well as our game schedules are on our website, and our athletic handbook, which we are constantly updating, and it's part of our registration process that parents and students have to agree to when they register for a sport. And then our Twitter handle is there at GCSD Spartans. We want to remain, have the most followers in the district, and we know people are trying to rival us, so this is my shameless plug for that as well, too. Questions? Yes?
Mine's a two-parter.
Okay.
Do you foresee streaming the games continuing after COVID has passed? It seems to be a benefit for families that are not in
It's been
town.
really good. We will continue. We have, so the camera that's in our field house, if you've seen that, that is aidable, that is up, that is not coming down. We've put in for one for our middle school, and then one, they're beta testing the one for outdoor at the stadium as well too. So when we're at full capacity for what we currently have on order as of last year's budget, we'll have 3 cameras on site. So whether it's graduation, whether it's opening day, whether it's an athletic contest, we can turn those on at those locations.
All right, and so at the home football games, will you be streaming the halftime show? Because I know last year that was a frustration for a lot of marching band parents that couldn't be here, or families of marching band because of the 2-person limit, that it cut out at halftime. I don't know if that was our choice. It could have been.
No, that wouldn't have been our choice, but they typically, during a regular halftime, if there's not a performance, they just keep it on the scoreboard. I can have them focus it on the marching band during halftime,
I
for
think
sure.
you went to a commercial or something, but it wasn't the usual. I don't remember.
I'll make the request. I'll make the request that they provide that service too. But as you can imagine, our numbers and our viewers are down as our numbers in person are going up. We were averaging around 200 viewers at a volleyball match, and the volleyball match that is probably just wrapping up right now, we had just a few dozen that were watching. But it's still a really nice service for families, especially that live out of town. Other questions?
I think we're all good.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to facilities, finance, and audit update. Dr. Ball?
Good evening. So we had the Finance, Facility, and Audit Committee yesterday evening, and we talked about a number of different things, including the independent audit. Right now, the Facility, Finance, and Audit Committee reviewed a draft report of the audit. The good news is there were no findings in that report, and so that was generally the bulk of that conversation. At the next board meeting, the board will be provided a copy in advance of that report so that the board can potentially approve that on the 28th. So that'll be at the next board meeting. We also talked about transportation aid holdback, noting that because the state did not aid the district between when they said the district would be shut down for good from May to the end of June, that the state then withheld aid. We did not anticipate that in our budget because at that time when we developed the budget, that was not part of the conversation or a consideration. And so the state's going to be withholding about $1.6 million from the district. But we do have a plan supplementing some of the federal funds to help us manage our budget through that loss in aid. So also talked about the budget calendar. We shared a draft budget calendar noting that we would be presenting it to the board for approval on the 28th. We also talked about the American Recovery Plan funds, noting that there was an extension. It was due at the end of August, August 31st. It's now due at the end of September, September 30th. So we're currently working on that extensive plan. Additionally, we talked about the administration building flood recovery. As you know, there was a flood in the basement here due to a mechanical failure of a sump pump. And so we had abatement done in the basement along with new carpeting, new sections of wall. It's been repainted,
and we currently have staff moving back into that area. Hopefully by the end of the week, that will be complete. We also talked about the Watchdog Building Partners Agreement as part of the ongoing capital project. Our construction manager, Watchdog Building Partners, their agreement, when it was originally signed nearly 2.5 years ago, extended them through October 31st. That agreement is coming to a close. So for any work that they do beyond October 31st, we will be paying them at a per diem rate. And with that, the meeting closed. Any questions? Yes.
Ms. Coffey?
The watchdog agreement had we fallen within the expected time frame in case there is per diem work? Is that something that was considered from the beginning, or is that as everything progressed, it just developed for our timeline?
So yes, when the agreement was originally signed, there was an estimated timeline for the project, as in how long it would take. And based on when things actually phased out, the project is ending up going longer. And so really, the auditorium, or the Performing Arts Center, I should say, and Neil Armstrong and Walt Disney should be entirely complete by the end of the year. And then moving into January and February, we're going to start doing what's called the punch list, which is when the construction manager goes through along with the architectural firm, and we start reviewing spaces that have been completed. There's also 2 other pieces of the project that we're bidding out now, which includes the parking lot in front of the stadium, and then also some selective roofing in certain areas. And so that's also going to extend the project, and we're trying to determine how we're going to manage that from a construction perspective. So there will be ongoing work that they have to be here for.
Thank you.
Certainly. Yes, sir. Mr.
So
Potensky.
the per diem rate for Watchdog, the max that could be is still within the bounds of contingency, so we're still on budget, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to approval of consensus agenda. A motion to approve the consent agenda. Ms. Kais, Ms. Munson, questions or comments? All in favor? The consent agenda is approved. Motion to approve consensus items C through O. Motion, please. Dr. Richards? Mr. Long? Questions or comments? All in favor? The consent agenda is approved. Ms. Corrado?
We have one retirement to acknowledge tonight. It's the retirement of Kathy Phillips, who serves as Patrick's right hand in the athletic department as the secretarial support over there, has been with us for 20 years. She is not retiring until the end of December, but Patrick is shaking in his boots already about what he's going to do. And we all agree she's extremely hardworking, valuable employee, and we wish her the best in retirement. She's served in multiple capacities for us over the last 20 years, and we hope she has a great retirement and a great last couple of months with us.
Thank you very much. We wish her well. Moving on to action items. Motion to approve the BPD agreement. Motion, please. Dr. Richards? Mr. Long? Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? The vote is unanimous. Thank you very much. Moving on, superintendent comments.
Well, wanted to say thank you to all the faculty, administration, and staff for the hard work to prepare and execute our opening. It was great to go through the schools and hear and feel the excitement of all our Spartans back together. Their attention to detail was evident, and it has allowed us to open safely and securely. We've had a great start. Kids are excited, staff are excited, and again, as you're walking into the buildings, it's electric as you walk in. Just very excited to see kids learning together again. Tonight, each of you received our new masks. that were ordered quite a while ago. But as everything else right now in August, everything got delayed. But they came in, and our students and staff will all be getting them. They either got them today or they'll get them tomorrow. The new design was by Mrs. Petrosino, and it's gone over very well. I've heard people comment it's nice that they can put their initials on it so that it doesn't get lost with everyone else's. So it's up to you what you'd like to put there where it has a spot for your name. It's National Safety Officer Week. So we wanted to thank all our security staff. They make a huge difference for us. We also have openings on our security staff, so if anyone's interested in working within a great team, please apply. And, tonight Dr. Irving talked about our athletics, but again, a big thank you to Dr. Irving, all our coaches and staff for getting our fall season off to a great start. Our facilities are being used all over the place. There's kids everywhere getting ready to compete, and they're just representing our community so well. And it's neat that no matter what time you go out there in the afternoon or evening, there's people out there using our great facilities. And just to see our kids having fun together and competing against other schools is just, it's what fall's all about. So great time of year seeing our kids succeed. Last night, we had our first capital project forum over in the high school mezzanine. We also have 2 more scheduled for this Thursday at 12 noon in this room, and next Tuesday at 4:30 in the high school mezzanine. Big thank you to Mr. Potensky and Mr. Moscato for attending last night. Dr. Ball and I will share the feedback received from all 3 forums at our meeting on the 28th. But we had some great feedback last night, and we'll continue to get that through our next 2 forums on developing our next capital project. Right now, we've been working together as a leadership team and district committee on how we are going to be handling our testing and vaccination expectations from the state at our local level. We'll be sending out information about the COVID testing to faculty, staff, and students and families this Friday. For students, what we know as of today is we're required to offer access to COVID testing to them. We're not required to test, but we are required to offer access to testing. Parents and guardians will have the opportunity to give the district permission to test their students. They're not required to. So if families want the district to use the tests throughout each month, we would have to test a certain percentage each week. If they give us permission, their students would be eligible for that. If they don't want to, they do not have to participate at all. But we'll have that explained clearly to them on Friday in a notice that will be going out. All district employees are required to be tested each week according to New York State. However, they can opt out of weekly testing by showing proof of vaccination. So we are putting in procedures in place for next week our staff to be able to do that if they choose to opt out, and that we plan to start our testing along with all the other districts in Monroe County the week of October 4th. Again, we'll clearly communicate this plan by the end of this week to all our constituents. Common question is who's going to pay for the test? Right now, we'll be getting the test from Monroe County Department of Health. We'll have about 3,600 tests on site by the end of the week. And we'll be determining based on responses if we need to bring in additional help to maintain our process going forward. Again, any staff that are not or do not show proof of vaccination will be required to take a test each week starting the week of October 4th, but we'll be working through that process within our district. And again, as we learn more each day of the expectations as this continues to evolve, we'll continue to communicate out when appropriate. But again, we're working together as a district to get this lined up so that it's as non-intrusive as possible to our learning environment, but it is an expectation and requirement from the state that we'll be meeting and exceeding to make sure that we do it safely for everybody and making sure that their information is protected, whether they are vaccinated or not as well. And the last is a request from all our principals and in our district office is please, if your children are showing any signs of sickness, keep them home. We had several kids sent in, not feeling so well, that had to leave during the day. Please, to keep our schools open and to keep our school classrooms healthy and safe. If your child is not feeling well, please keep them home until they're feeling better. We really need people to stick to that more than ever. We want to stay open. We want to make sure that our kids have the opportunity to be in person and learn together with our outstanding staff. So please, if your kids are showing any signs, keep them home until they're feeling better, please. That is my report, sir.
Thank you very much. We do not have need of executive session. Motion to adjourn. Ms. Guys, Ms. Hunson, all in favor? The vote is unanimous. We are adjourned.
Yeah.